Most people think rich people save money by being extremely careful with every little expense. No unnecessary coffee, no eating out, no impulse shopping, no fun. And yes, discipline does matter. But that's not actually how wealthy people think about saving. Because rich people usually do not become rich by saving 100 rupees here and 500 rupees there. They become rich by learning how to keep larger amounts, protect cash flow, avoid expensive mistakes, and make money stay useful for longer. That is the real difference. Poor people often think saving means spending less. Rich people usually think saving means losing less. And those are two very different things. So in this video, let's break down how rich people actually save money and why their version of saving looks completely different from the advice most people grow up hearing. First, rich people do not just cut expenses, they protect cash flow. Let's start with the biggest difference. Most people treat saving like a monthly leftover. Whatever remains at the end of the month becomes savings. And if nothing remains, then nothing gets saved. That means saving depends on mood, emergencies, desires, and random spending. Rich people do not like that model. They focus on cash flow first. In simple words, cash flow means how much money is coming in, how much is going out, and how much is staying under control. Because if your cash flow is weak, your money disappears, even if your income looks impressive. This is why some people earn a lot, but are always broke. Their income is high, but their outflow is also high. EMIS, lifestyle upgrades, subscriptions, car payments, expensive rent, unplanned spending, status purchases. So even though they look rich, they are not actually keeping much. Rich people understand one basic thing. It is not enough to make money. You must also stop money from leaking. That is why they care so much about recurring expenses. Not because they are scared to spend, but because recurring expenses quietly destroy freedom. A one-time purchase hurts once. A bad recurring commitment hurts every single month. So wealthy people often ask, will this expense reduce my flexibility? Because once your monthly obligations become too heavy, your income no longer belongs to you. It belongs to your lifestyle. And that is a trap. Second, they save in systems, not in random amounts. Most people save emotionally. This month I'll try. This month I'll control spending. This month I'll be serious. But rich people usually build systems. And systems are powerful because they work even when motivation disappears. For example, instead of saying, I'll save whatever is left, they decide in advance, a fixed percentage goes here, a fixed percentage goes there, a fixed percentage gets invested, and a fixed percentage stays liquid. This matters a lot. Because random saving feels optional. Systematic saving feels automatic. And once something becomes automatic, it stops depending on discipline. That's why many wealthy people do not trust willpower alone. They trust structure. Think about it like this. If every month you save only when you feel responsible, then your future depends on your emotions. But if your money is already assigned, before you even touch it, then your future depends on a process. And processes beat emotions, almost every time. So rich people often do not ask, how much should I save this month? They ask, what percentage of my income should always be protected? That is a much smarter question, because wealth is usually built through consistency, not occasional effort. Third, rich people avoid expensive mistakes, more than small expenses. This is where most people completely misunderstand money. They focus too much on tiny savings and too little on huge losses. They will spend time comparing a 50 rupee discount, but they will ignore a terrible financial decision that costs lakhs over time. Rich people usually think the opposite way. They know one bad decision can destroy years of good saving. For example, buying a car you cannot comfortably afford, taking high-interest debt for lifestyle reasons, entering a bad business partnership, buying something only to impress others, ignoring taxes, investing in something you do not understand, or signing a long-term expense commitment with no real plan. These mistakes are expensive, very expensive, and wealthy people understand that avoiding one big mistake can save more money than months of frugal living. This is a major mindset shift because normal saving advice often sounds like skip this, cut that, reduce this small thing. But rich people also pay attention to the big financial landmines. They ask, what decision could quietly drain my money for the next 3 years? That question is far more powerful than, how do I save a little extra this weekend? In other words, the rich often save money, not by acting cheap, but by acting careful. And careful is not the same as cheap. Fourth, they buy assets before luxuries. Now let's talk about one of the biggest patterns wealthy people follow. They often buy income-producing things before they buy ego-producing things. That is a huge difference. Most people increase their lifestyle as soon as income increases. Salary goes up, lifestyle goes up, business grows, expenses grow, bonus comes in, spending starts. This is why many people never feel financially stronger, even after earning more, because every increase in income gets matched by an increase in lifestyle. Rich people are usually more strategic. Before upgrading their visible lifestyle, they try to strengthen their invisible foundation. That means they often put money into things that can either produce more money, protect money, or reduce future financial stress. That could mean investments, that could mean business systems, that could mean learning a valuable skill, that could mean building reserves, that could mean buying time-saving tools that improve productivity. The point is simple. They try to build the machine before decorating the machine, because luxuries consume money. Assets support money. And when someone buys luxuries too early, it creates pressure. But when someone builds assets first, luxuries later become easier to afford, without stress. That is why some rich people may look modest, in certain areas, for a long time. Not because they cannot spend, but because they understand sequence. First foundation, then freedom, then visible upgrades. That order matters. Fifth, they use debt differently. A lot of people think all debt is bad, but wealthy people usually see debt in a more strategic way. Now, obviously, careless debt is dangerous, very dangerous. But the bigger difference is this. Poor and middle-class people often take debt to consume. Rich people try to use debt, when they use it, to control, acquire, or expand. That does not mean debt is magical. It means the purpose matters. For normal people, debt often comes from impatience. I want this now. I deserve this now. I'll manage later. That mindset is expensive. Because interest punishes emotional decisions. Rich people know this. So they try not to use debt for things that only create pressure without creating return. And even when they do use leverage, they usually think in terms of risk, timing, cash flow, and exit strategy. That's the important part. They do not just ask, can I get this? They ask, can this decision pay for itself? Or will it become a burden? That one question can completely change your financial life, because debt used without a plan can slowly steal future income. And if your future income is already committed, you are no longer building wealth. You are serving past decisions. That is why the rich are often very serious about not getting trapped by stupid liabilities. Again, this is saving money in a deeper way, not by cutting snacks, but by avoiding financial chains. Sixth, rich people save through taxes, negotiation, and structure. Here is something many people ignore. Rich people do not only save money by spending carefully, they also save money through structure. This includes things like tax planning, legal structure, negotiation, timing, bundling, bulk decisions, and strategic purchasing. This is important because once you reach a certain level, small percentage differences become massive. For example, a wealthy person may save more money through one smart tax decision than someone else saves all year by cutting tiny daily expenses. That is how powerful structure can be. Now, this does not mean illegal shortcuts. It means being informed, understanding where money goes, understanding what can be optimized, understanding when to buy, how to buy, and under what terms. Rich people often know that ignorance is expensive. If you do not understand contracts, you lose money. If you do not understand taxes, you lose money. If you do not compare options, you lose money. If you do not negotiate, you lose money. And these losses are silent. That is what makes them dangerous. You do not even realize how much is slipping away. So while most people think saving is only about self-control, wealthy people often treat saving as a game of intelligence, planning, and positioning. That is a much more advanced version of money management. Seventh, they save time, not just money. This one is underrated. Rich people do not only protect money, they protect time. And once you understand that, your decisions start changing. For example, some wealthy people are happy to pay more for convenience, speed, delegation, or expertise. At first glance, that does not look like saving. It looks like spending more. But in reality, they may be saving something far more valuable. Focus, energy, decision-making power, productive hours. Imagine someone spends 3 hours trying to save a tiny amount on something unimportant. A rich person might think, that is a bad trade. Because if that time could have been used to make a better business decision, close a client, create something valuable, or strengthen an important relationship, then the cheap option was actually costly. This is why wealthy people often outsource, automate, or delegate certain things. Not because they are lazy, but because they understand leverage. They want their personal attention going into high-value areas. So yes, rich people save money, but often they do it by protecting the resource that produces money in the first place, their time, and that's a lesson many people learn too late. Finally, their real goal is not to hoard money, it is to keep more, grow more, and lose less. Now let's bring everything together. Rich people do save money, but not always in the way people imagine. They are not necessarily obsessed with appearing cheap. They are obsessed with efficiency. They want money to stay useful. They want money to remain under control. They want money to avoid unnecessary damage. And they want money to keep producing options. That is the real goal. Because wealth is not just about earning more, it is also about keeping more, growing more, and losing less. That is why rich people often care so much about cash flow, systems, bad debt, big mistakes, assets, tax structure, and time leverage. All of those are forms of saving, just at a higher level. And once you understand that, your whole view of money starts changing. Saving is not only about restriction. Saving is also about protection. Saving is also about design. Saving is also about preventing future pain. That is how wealthy people think. So if you really want to save like rich people, do not just ask, how can I spend less? Also ask, how can I keep more? How can I avoid expensive mistakes? How can I protect my cash flow? How can I build systems? How can I make my money work harder? And how can I stop my lifestyle from owning my income? Because that is where real financial strength begins, not with random sacrifice, but with smart control. And once you learn that, saving money stops feeling small. It starts becoming a strategy.